good morning, afternoon, and evening. This is the FGEN experience, documenting interviews and conversations between first-generation students and the University of Portland. In today's episode, one of this podcast's spearheads, Jonathan Hart, speaks with Norman Hilker, our sound editor, and introduces the conversation episodes we plan to continue this podcast series with. They delve into their past and cultural backgrounds, as well as how these identities correlate and directly connect to their primary interest as college juniors. John talks about his hobbies in animation and skateboarding, while Norman takes a deep dive into his journey in filmmaking, recorded in person in a Friends Hall auditorium on March 13th, 2021. We hope you enjoy.
There's the podcast picture right there.
Yeah.
See that click though, that was insanely loud.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's next? How are we going to start the podcast? What do you bet we're already starting right now? Longer the better.
Honestly, yeah. It's recording now. I thought I was recording before, but then
Okay,
I looked down and I cut the other audio, but I
Yeah.
actually forgot to start recording.
Cool.
But yeah. I don't know. I haven't had really any. I feel like we have a lot of good ideas for the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Let me pull up the document so that I can
Yeah. Is that the podcast ideas doc or the podcast structure one?
I was thinking about just like kind of both, honestly.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
I'll pull up both.
Yeah, I also have that one pulled up too. So
Yes.
what are we thinking? The first gen experience?
Yeah, the first gen experience. We say it like it's like an amusement park ride. Like
Yeah.
it's like Space Mountain, but it's the first gen experience.
Yeah. I did look up like first gen, FGEN, and those sort of keywords on Spotify to see if anything like that was stolen or taken.
Yeah.
That's a better term to use. And I only saw like a couple, and they looked like they were both part of different schools that were doing their own sort of first generation student podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Except it wasn't like a fancy title. So
Right.
the fancy title's ours.
Yes. Have we decided on a title or like?
Well, like the ones we have on there are the FGen experience.
Right.
There's-
That's a good one.
There's UP FGen, which is a lot of capitalized letters, but it's shortened to the point. There's FGen on FGen, which, it sounds a little pseudo intellectual. I don't even know what I'm saying.
Yeah, FGen on FGen. So honestly sounds a little dirty too.
Yeah, it kind of does.
Yeah.
It's like a late night talk show like Psychologist or something.
Yeah.
But then a subtitle idea is the University of Portland First Generation Student Experience, which
Okay.
is exactly what it is, but it's a mouthful.
Yeah, that is a mouthful. I kind of like the FGen experience.
The
I
FGen
think,
experience.
Yeah, and then I don't know. There could be like the acronym could just be like TFE. I don't.
TFE.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh yeah,
I don't
like
if
the
that's-
Joe Rogan experience is JRE.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. As long as it's not like an acronym for something that already exists.
I don't think. it
Yeah,
is.
honestly, TFE, I can't think of anything.
Yeah.
So
And besides, FGen experience it's a cool ring to it.
honestly,
Yeah.
yeah, but it's not like the FGen experience. It's not like you're experiencing the FGen. It's like people's experiences.
Yeah.
So it's like I don't know. Basically, I guess we could talk about like the idea for it a little bit and
Absolutely, yeah.
go into detail with that.
Yeah, like you're spearheading this project with Melanie. So
Yes.
can you explain for our audience what this podcast is about?
Yeah, honestly, before I get into it, don't let Norman belittle himself either. He's just as much a part of it. But you're in this as deep as we are at this point.
Well, sweet.
But basically, this podcast is a chance to kind of advocate for FGen students in the way that we're giving them a platform to share their experiences And it's not just students, it can also be faculty and staff. At this point, I believe all the recording that has been done on Mel's side has been with students. But definitely we're open to like faculty and staff coming on. But basically, the idea is you come on, you talk about your experience as a first-gen student, you talk about your other identities if you want to, and where that intersects with being like a first-gen student. But pretty much like the floor is open to our guests to talk about like whatever they want to talk about.
Absolutely.
Yeah, could be whatever passions you have. They could be related to first-gen, or they could be something completely different. Like, if you really like to like rock climb while wearing a onesie, like that's dope. We want to hear about that on the show.
That's incredibly specific.
That's just a random example. I am not somebody who participates in that, but if somebody did, we'd love to hear about it. And I don't know. I wouldn't like to say that the podcast is exclusive to FGEN students, but it really is. It is like exclusive to FGEN students, but in another way, it's very inclusive of FGEN students because it's open for you to talk about, whatever you want.
Exactly.
And we do have like some basic questions that you can use to like guide your talk. Basically, like one of them is, what does your FGEN identity mean to you? And for example, Norman can answer this question right now, and then there's like a good idea of what you could say.
Yeah. And I feel bad saying this because I say this so much whenever I am asked about first gen, whether it's with people I know or friends and family or even in like interviews. But and you can even like find this quote of mine online somewhere. But to me, being FGen means that you just have a weight to carry that not everyone else is going to have. And I came into first gen before my years of college even began. Like I got an email from Matt Daly, who is part of the Shepherd Academic Resource Center, and he's the head of the first generation student program here. And he pretty much sent out an email to me saying like, hey, you qualify for the first gen program. Why don't you come along for a summer launch pre-orientation for incoming first gen freshmen? And I looked into it and I was like, what the hell is first gen? Mm-hmm. And I was looking it up and it just occurred to me, like I knew that my parents did not graduate from college. Now I will admit that they did take a few years of college, but not enough to not all 4 years, not like a bachelor's or anything. And I went into it thinking, oh wow, this is something that's gonna help define me. It's gonna be something that's gonna look good on my resume, and that'll make me shine more than other candidates if I'm like interviewing for a job or something. And I think it was through that summer launch pre-orientation with those first gen freshmen that I started to really understand like where everyone was coming from. These were all people from different backgrounds than me. They were also in different parts of Portland, and they were even students from all across the nation and even across the globe too, who came to this summer launch. And seeing that really just struck a chord with me, but in such a good way, in that this was just something that was going to be different for me. The same way that I was anticipating college to be something very different than what I had experienced in elementary school and middle school and high school, because I went to school in Lake Oswego, Oregon, which is it's funny because this is like the first like official thing in which I could be really talking about my pre-college experience, in that Lake Oswego was just simply not the best place to grow up in. The people just weren't the nicest, and it just there were good days, but there were also plenty of days where I just felt like my voice wasn't always brought to the table, or it was pretty much the shortest way I can say it is that it's just full of a bunch of rich, entitled people, because Lake Oswego is like a rich suburb of Portland, and yeah, so it was good to finally get out of that environment, because for me, it just fostered this sort of environment where it was just a big bubble. And, coming to college, it just made me realize, like, hey, wait a minute, I could poke my way out of this bubble. I could break this bubble. And, summer launch was my first sort of experience in getting out of it. And it just felt like a weight had literally been carried off of me, but at the same time, I'm still carrying this weight in that I am a first generation student. I got to make my parents proud, got to make my family proud. And so I feel like all the struggles that I have had in college have just been related more towards time management and, the same sort of things that all, typical college students would go through. But I'm also first generation. So, the struggles that I could be going through may also be psychological too. And that, I'm just trying to get through it,
Yeah.
That's the way I can say it. But yeah, the way it means to me is that we have a lot going on for us, and we're going through it.
Yeah, I mean, we're just going through it like everybody else is going through it. Of course, being like a first-gen student, it's like, your family doesn't really have that understanding of like what you're going through necessarily. And like as much as they love you and want to support you, it's like, your college experience isn't something you can really talk to them about, and then they can relate back and be like, oh, I've been there, or, this is what you should do, and just give you, advice on that subject. So it's definitely something that makes us independent in a way, where a lot of the stuff we're going through and a lot of the ways we're learning to like deal with time management and stuff like that, and financial costs, financial burdens too, is like, this is stuff we kind of got to figure out on our own for a lot of the part. And luckily we have such a good like first generation community here that helps us as well. Because I mean, not gonna lie, my first gen experience, has been pretty different than yours, I would say, because I honestly didn't come into the program until like my junior year is like when I really started participating and really just like accepting that part of my identity. Because I don't know, beforehand in high school, especially, like I kind of relate to your struggle on kind of just dealing with like rich people who feel entitled or kind of mean, don't necessarily treat you with respect. And I guess, I don't know, I was tired of, being made fun of for being like the poor kid,
I totally was too.
Yeah, and I was just like, at first, it didn't bother me too much, and I never really let it like totally get to my head, but I was just like, man, like screw this, like who cares, how much money my family has.
Right.
It's like, I feel like that doesn't really matter, and that doesn't really say anything about a person's character. But I guess because of that kind of experience I had dealing with people who were just like, oh, look, poor kid. It's like, I kind of hid that identity for a while in college. And I, my parents couldn't really help me with the whole college experience. Like, of course, they support me as much as they can, financially and emotionally. But I don't know. It wasn't until the end of sophomore year where I kind of came to Matt and I was like, hey, here's the deal. I am poor. I'm a first generation student and I need help. Like, I need instruction. I need like guidance. And then I came to Matt asking him if he could just help me find a job just so I could pay for like the necessities, like food and like soap, shampoo and stuff like that. And Matt, of course, being, the biggest advocate for first generation students on campus, not even a first generation student or faculty member himself. He just, he loves us and supports us in that way. He connected me with so many different people. Of course, my resume only consisting of my previous laser tag job didn't really help me find a job. But eventually, Matt, the person who I came to for help, ended up being the person who hired me. And since then, I've just had such a good experience with this community. And it's like everybody, like I literally love all of like our ambassadors and like staff, like everybody is great and like open and accepting and friendly and like kind, and it's just like a community that I'm like, how did I go on so long in college like before like finding this? And it was like, I've said this before, but initially when I got Matt Daly's emails, I thought it was like the Matt Daly email because I thought it was sent out every day. I didn't know that was his last name, and honestly, it's a really good last name. Like maybe I like Matt that last name. Matt, Matt is an acronym. What would it be?
Mutually achievable tests to go.
Yes. Daily.
Daily.
That is some information that I need daily.
Wow.
But I literally thought it was just a daily email that was sent out. Yeah. And I didn't know that this was like an actual, like, I didn't know Matt like that. So
and then the next day when you don't get an email, his name's supposed to be Matt Daly.
Yeah, exactly. It all connected. Yeah, that one time I didn't get an email, I was like, wait. But, being first gen to me just means being ready to keep moving forward even when things get like really tough or when it's like really frustrated. Like you have no idea how to like deal with a certain part of college or just navigate the college life. You still have to be ready to like make a step forward because there's your family is relying on you for one. You're trying to push them forward. And, for like a lot of us, it's like, our parents might not have had like the easiest lives at all. And us, I mean, we have the privilege of going to this school for one. So it's like, obviously they've worked like their asses off in order to like put us into this school and like to get us to this space and this program. And now it's our turn.
Yeah.
And soon enough we'll be graduates and, we'll be helping to take care of them. So that's the goal. Crazy. That's the goal for me, at least. I don't know. Everybody has different goals, but I just want to be able to eventually, be that caretaker figure for my parents because, they sacrificed so much to get me here. And,
absolutely. And college now is, and I probably wouldn't know what it's like because I was definitely not alive in their time. But college now is so much different than it was then. So, there probably could have been even more struggles that, our parents or the generation of all of our parents have been going through during that time. So, we just simply want to know what that's like. But I like what you were saying about how the way what first gen means to you, especially you coming from someone who had just recently joined first gen compared to like me and other students. It's really just about coming together and finding like a real community for yourself. And I know that for some it may mean like, oh, that doesn't really do much, you're just like coming together. I mean, I understand that, but there's just like there's an inherent sort of subtle thing that we're all striving for as humans, and that is connection. Mm-hmm. And we don't want to be alone in this universe. And for something like first gen, we can still be able to collaborate, and we can still be able to come together and share our similarities and try and see what else that we do share. And whether that's through a computer screen and a camera or in a classroom setting like we are right now, it's beautiful, and it's something to really cherish, and not everyone will experience that. So I'm just glad that college can still provide that opportunity.
Yeah. And I mean, I agree with you as like some people are like, oh, I don't need that community. Like, I got my own thing going on. But like, for other people, like this community is huge for them, and it's like a huge part of their life. Mm-hmm. And like obviously everybody is going to consider their first gen identity to be like either like a big or a smaller part of like their identity as a whole. And like for me personally, like I said, like I'm still pretty new to this community comparatively to like other people. Thankfully, I've been like welcomed in, and like everything has gone so smoothly.
Just gone like, very smoothly.
Yeah, smoothie. I mean,
protein or vegan?
Oh, honestly, protein, like a strawberry protein smoothie right now would be insane. I love smoothies.
By the way, we're going to be taking a lot of detours like that through a lot of this podcast.
Yeah, that's one of the things we're actually kind of pushing for, is to, go off topic and just talk about whatever you want.
If there isn't an error in any of our podcasts, then something's wrong.
Yeah. Not to talk about Jamba Juice, but I think there's much better smoothie shops out there. I just want to say that, like, I had a Jamba Juice gift card. I couldn't even find a Jamba Juice around, like, the Portland area. The gift card's expired now. There might be one around here. I don't know, though. But yeah, the gift card is expired, so I will be getting my smoothies elsewhere.
One will turn up eventually.
Yeah. Please sponsor us, Jamba Juice, by the way. But, yeah. Like I was saying before we kind of got off track, I just wanted to say that, like, for me, who is like someone who is still newer to the first gen community, maybe being a first gen student is not like my biggest identity, but one of my biggest identities is kind of this desire to play like a support role for others, and that definitely combines with my first gen identity in like a big way, and it creates like this own thing where it's just like I want to be able to support others within this community. And it's where it's not like my biggest passion isn't about being first gen itself as like a concept, but rather about supporting first gen students and bringing people within this community together. And that is really something that's difficult to do, of course, right now during COVID. But hopefully next year, I say next year, it might even be later this year. Hopefully that becomes a thing again.
It might even be 2 years.
Yeah, it might be 2 years. It might never happen again, and we just, are in the matrix at this point.
Yeah.
But, didn't mean to red pill you all on that. No, I'm kidding. I hate when people say, I don't mean to like red pill you on this.
I've never heard red pill as a verb before.
Yeah, it's just such like it's kind of like a condescending thing to say, in my opinion.
Could be.
But yeah, I'm sure people don't mean it in that way most of the time.
I like your talk about, embracing the support role, because whenever I think of the word support, I think of like in a movie or game, and there's like a military squad of like there's a tank and there's attackers and there's support, and then that's just it. And I think of like whenever if I like play games or if I watch a movie, I feel more for like the pawns of the chessboard, or like the people who are like dealing the most damage, and so the way that you talk about support, it makes me think like that it is always necessary, and it's always it's not just it's about defense and about lifting up yourself while you're doing your best to lift up others, like within a community or a certain setting like that. So I just think it's awesome, and the way that you talk about it, I just have like a greater appreciation for that. So yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, well, thank you, Norman. And I really like your kind of your metaphor to like a support role in like an army like platoon, or like in like a video game. I really like those like healer characters, that like, while these dudes go mess up the bad guys, I'm gonna sit back and heal them.
Yeah. And
I would say, in relation to first gen, the bad guys might be like, finding an internship is somebody, it's some task you got to defeat, or, just like a big exam coming up that could be like, some enemy or like boss enemy
Right.
or whatever. And I kind of just want to be somebody who's there to kind of like fuel that fight.
Mm-hmm.
And I can go break off and handle my own little situations here and there, whether it be like a test or like a week full of midterms or whatever. I got to go handle my own thing, but I know that like as soon as like that time is freed up, I got to go back and I got to make sure everyone else is doing okay, because that's just, I don't know, that's just something I'm really passionate about. And I just I don't know, you could even get like annoying at times where it's but it's like I feel like whether it's annoying or not, like I just want to be there for my friends. I want to be there for the people in my community, and that's my job. And my job is to be annoying when people need it or when I think people need it. And it's like forgive me, but that's really what I like to do.
Have you found yourself taking the role of support outside of First Gen?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, for one, like with my family, when I think about them, I guess this is still kind of related to First Gen, but when I think about my mom and my dad, like once I'm done with college and I'm graduated and I find a job, like I want to be able to send like them money for like their rent, I want the roles to kind of reverse, and I want to start playing the support role for my biggest supporters, my mom and my dad, and my brother. And once I can do that, then it's like I feel like I will have really achieved what I want to for now. And I don't know, even in my house, like right up the street from here, like I got a lot of roommates. I got 7 roommates.
7 roommates.
Yeah. And it's incredible. It's like everybody is so like just like COVID safe, and it's like you would think that implies like kind of being alone for a lot of the time. But since we have 7 roommates, we have this closed social like bubble type situation, and it's like I feel like I'm so lucky during the pandemic that I just have like a house full of like these friends.
Yeah.
And I try my best to be like a support role for them, or like a supporter for them. Like, I don't know, sometimes it'll be like, hey, whose dish is that in the sink? Or like, oh, John, is that your sink full of dishes? And it's like, yeah, my bad, guys. I used all 7 of these mugs to make burgers last night, obviously. And I'll just be like, I'm going to wash them. Because I know it's like somebody else probably, was drinking a lot of coffee or something and just left it in there. But I don't mind, taking the blame for things like that sometimes, because I know it'll make somebody else's life like easier too.
Yeah.
And like somebody else who might be a bit more sensitive to like that judgment, or like the just the role of having to like wash the dishes is like I'll do it.
So it sounds like you take like more satisfaction from doing things for others than you do for yourself, or not like that, but like you find more satisfaction from doing things for yourself and for others than you do solely for yourself.
Yeah, I would say so. I would say like most things that if only I'm gonna like reap the benefits of it, it's like I would say that's like a secondary or like a tertiary like task. My primary task is like always gonna be the one that that benefits like multiple people.
Right.
So I don't know. That's just like the way I think about it. But yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So we can move on to like another question here on the podcast structure sheet. Do you have one that you particularly want to go into? Or?
One of the questions that we have?
Yeah.
We can just go to the next one, which is what is your greatest passion or aspiration at the moment?
I want to hear from you. What is your? I know you're really into like photography and like video stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like ever since I was very little, I've just been the biggest fan of movies, and not just like movies, but I guess just like the motion picture or like moving image in order to tell a story. And, you know, when I was deciding upon my major and minor at University of Portland, those were the two things I kind of like look back to. Like my main interest and my forte is film and filmmaking and editing and even shooting stuff too. And, you know, later on down the line, it could be directing or writing or acting or really on down the line producing. But yeah, so for me, like I just narrowed down to story and art. And the two departments that I could narrow that down to were English, my major, and fine arts, my minor. And so it may be my greatest passion or aspiration in life, but I would definitely consider it one at the moment too. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. And I've been shooting and editing my own stuff for the past few years. Now, they have all been shot on an iPhone. Now, I know that's very, I know that there could be some reactions to that, like, oh my God, you're shooting a thing on an iPhone, or there even could be some like picky people, like the big like really nerdy like cinephiles who are like, oh, it's so overrated to shoot on an iPhone. That's too artsy for me, you know. And the way I think about it is that not a lot of people know that we carry 4K cameras in our pockets. And, you know, I feel like now I just have an iPhone 8 right now, which is kind of outdated at the moment. But
same here.
Yeah, so the camera on that and the capabilities that they have, now it's not like a full frame sensor. It's not like a Super 35 or a 65 mil. It's not like one of those big like Hollywood cameras. But, you know, I feel like there's this app I use. I mean, it was like $15, but it was definitely worth it. And it pretty much replicates the same sort of tools that you would on any sort of like film or digital camera that you would use in order to capture stuff. And you know, with that app and that camera and different kinds of phone lenses that I've picked up over time, I've been able to, and I really don't want to brag when I say this, but I have been able to capture like a lot of good stuff even with just an iPhone. And so I mean, I do want to get to the point where like I don't have to shoot on an iPhone anymore, because let's be real, it is a tiny sensor. But so I am thinking of doing one thing by the end of this year that would be hopefully feature length, like something that's like an hour and a half or so. And I do have ideas for what I want to do with that. I feel like it would be the last thing I would shoot on an iPhone before I would transition to like other cameras I would use. But so my greatest aspiration right now would be, film and watching more movies and hopefully getting the industry back in action after COVID. And just putting myself out there more, because that's something I've always been nervous about, but not so much over the past few years because of the stuff that I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
No, I mean, definitely. And I really appreciate like the craftiness of like the recording that you do, and just like being willing to like say like, oh yeah, I record all my stuff on an iPhone. First of all, like, let's start a GoFundMe for Norman here. No, I'm kidding. But seriously though, some camera company, please send Norman a camera that he can use.
Thank you. Harry, come get me.
Yeah, honestly, another sponsor in addition to Jamba Juice.
Yeah.
But I really love how crafty you are with it. And I think that's like a dope goal to set for yourself, to make like something feature film length by the end of the year. Do you have like a storyboard going, or like?
Yeah, so I pretty much storyboard like a lot of shots. Like the last, I always say film, even though it's like not shot on film and it's not like a feature length sort of thing, but I call them films just to sometimes make me feel good by myself, sometimes just to, mark myself, But the last film I did was, oh my God, it was 1 year ago today that I put it out. And it was a short, like, psychological thriller that it's all told in black and white still photos. And it was a good friend of mine that we just spent a few nights I'd say filming, where we were just like taking photos. And so that took a while, and I was editing it right when the shutdown was gonna happen. And so it was quite a lot of work to be able to get there. And even though, like, you know, the impact of everything shutting down just took a toll on me, and I have taken a long break since then, you know, things are really just starting to really feel like they're getting back to normal now. So I'm definitely starting to think about what to do. But I feel like I strayed away from your question. But yeah, so I storyboard my own stuff. I do all the dialogue and actions and stuff from the last thing I did was all pretty much improvised. But yeah, I do want to get to a point where I do like write scripts, and you know, I do have a little notebook where I storyboard all my stuff, and it's all really rough. It's not like stick figures, but it's just, you know, I like to get the general shape of stuff, and I'm like a big enthusiast in you know, composition and color and aspect ratio and you know, all the little technical stuff like that for, you know, visualizing the image. And so yeah, I know I'm like taking so much of the runtime of the podcast.
No,
just
keep
talking
talking,
about that
please.
stuff. But yeah, so it's just it's exciting to me, and it's just cool that I can just have it all on my phone, and that I can just go on my laptop or like I got a new computer a few months back, so it's like my new like editing battle station that I have in my room, and so I pretty much been using that to edit, to color correct, and I even found like a way to be able to like now I normally I prefer like 4K files for when I shoot, because, you know, it shoots in raw 4K, but I have found ways to be able to turn 2K or, you know, 1080 stuff into 4K, and that's been pretty fun to experiment with. And so there was one thing I did a while back where when we got all that snow before it became like a big storm, I just like set my phone on the ground with different lenses, and I just let the snow fall in slow-mo. And now with slow-mo, that can only shoot in 1080 or 2K, not 4K. So, you know, it's not like the biggest high quality, so it's still trying to make way for the high frame rate that it's shooting in. And so I still wanted to make this a 4K file because, you know, 4K is 4K, 4K is high resolution, you know. And so I like through a lot of experimenting, I just was able to find the tricks to be able to turn it into it. Now, it's not like raw 4K, but the high dynamic range is able to bring it up to 4K. I can't believe I'm talking about color correcting on a first-gen podcast.
No, I mean, it's totally good. I mean, this
nerding out about film stuff, yeah.
Very, very interesting stuff.
Yeah.
First of all, link to Norman's short film down in the description, of course.
Yeah,
Leave it
sure.
some love.
Thank you.
But I've heard, you probably know way more about this stuff than me, but I've heard of this thing called focused 4K, where basically like the focus of the shot is in 4K, and then like the rest of the shot that, you know, you're not really going to be looking at as much. They sacrifice it, and maybe it's like 2K, maybe it's even down to like 1080p at some points, just like high definition. Mm-hmm. But I know this is like something they're using on like the new PlayStation to like create 4K gaming while being able to keep up with like the speed and like the hardware limitations that they have. And I don't know if this is like something that's like commonly practiced, but when I heard about this concept, I thought it was like really cool.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you know anything about that, but yeah.
I've actually never heard of it, but when I have experimented with the different lenses on my phone to be able to see like what sort of like technicalities or capabilities that the lenses do have, there is one lens I have which is like a telephoto lens. Now the iPhone 8 camera only has one sort of lens, whereas like the new cameras, they have like 3 cameras. And you know, so they provide like different sort of modes of magnification. The iPhone 8, if you wanted to shoot in raw 4K, you can't change the lens unless you were to attach something on there. So the one telephoto lens that I do have, it magnifies, and you're still able to shoot in raw 4K, but it's a spherical lens, which means that there is a lot more focus in the center, and on the outside there's something called a vignette, which is if you were looking at me right now and you put if you made like a O with your fingers and you put it like really up close, you'd see like the sort of frame that your fingers are making, right? So just a little bit further back, that's a vignette, but it's pretty much just, that's pretty much like if you're shooting at a wide angle lens, then you can be able to see like the very fine little edges of the lens, of the actual lens, like on the corners of the thing. And so now I don't really have much of a vignette on that lens, but I do have, it does kind of blur out just a bit the outside. Now, I've never heard of like this focused 4K sort of thing, but I could understand it being applied to games in that it could bring about more of the flow of high resolution gaming, especially when you're trying to reach like a big bandwidth of multiple players, like online or something. But it may have to do with the areas of the screen in which, with like heads-up display, like what is most applicable to be able to observe within that sort of space, like whether it's the enemy you're trying to shoot down or some little stats on the corners of the screen. But when my focus is more on like film and filmmaking, not necessarily with games.
Right.
But I can totally see where you're coming from with that.
Yeah, no, I just thought it was interesting, and I think the main purpose for it was to keep like that high resolution while still running at 60 frames per second.
Yeah.
Which is hard when you're not using like some big like multiple $1,000 like PC. When they're selling these PlayStations for like, I mean, scalpers have bought most of them, and now you have to pay like thousands of dollars for them. But they're trying to sell them for like $400 a pop, and like with that amount of like, I don't know, that quality of hardware that you can put into a PlayStation, selling it at that amount. They're going to have to make cuts in some places.
Right, yeah.
But
we just simply have not reached that sort of, step in technology to where we can stream 4,000 lines of pixels across however many players online all at once, but also having different sort of games in which millions of other people could be doing that as well.
Yeah.
So, it's just, we're simply not there yet, so we just have to compromise at this point.
Mm-hmm. But, I mean, after many more years of optimization, we'll get there. And we'll be selling PlayStation 9s for $20 a pop, so everybody will be able to play it. But, now, going back to kind of you're talking about like some of the different lenses you have for your phone too. I really I can relate to your craftiness, not as far as like filmmaking goes, but I also I have my own YouTube channel. I upload like only like gaming stuff, so it's not like super creative. I'd like to kind of get creative with the thumbnails, but like I canceled my like Adobe subscription.
Oh no!
Because I was like, I barely know how to use this Adobe Premiere in the first place.
Yeah.
And most of I think it comes with like 80 some apps, and I only used one of them. And I canceled that because I was like, I don't even know how to use most of the features on this, and I'm in, I got classes right now. I can't take the time to learn this stuff.
Busy.
Yeah, so downloaded the old Movie Maker Pro and got Microsoft Paint as an alternative to Photoshop.
Right.
So those are honestly, they're working fine for me.
Yeah.
With the combination of 5 or 6 different free softwares, I can get almost the same effect as I would be able to with one feature on an expensive software.
Right. Make the most of what you have.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And that kind of ties back to the whole first gen thing.
Yeah, definitely. Where it's just if I don't know, if we weren't first gen, we might not have these issues. We might just use I don't know, some kind of savings that we have, or some kind of family resource to get the expensive things that we need.
Can I get a Canon full frame? Yeah, here's 5.
Yeah, honestly. Oh yeah, and here's a crew that's gonna help you make your film this year. Yeah.
And then the next day you're TikTok famous.
Exactly. Yeah. All it takes is a little bit of money. But
just a little.
Yeah, so I mean, I really appreciate you sharing your passion with us.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry I went to too much into that.
No, we can have
First
like
episode.
we can have like a Norman talks on film segment.
Oh boy.
For this. There's probably going to be some fans of that. I'm sure there's
Hopefully.
some nerds watching. No, I'm kidding.
Or just casual movie people.
Yeah, exactly.
What about you? What's your greatest passion or aspiration at the moment?
Okay, so that is it is kind of hard for me to say. I've had like so many throughout the years, and honestly, it changes so much.
Yeah.
Like from like everything. I would say, honestly, like just supporting my friends, being there for my friends. That is my greatest passion. I love to fill like all my free time with just like spending time with other people and kind of like, I don't know, like being there for them, doing what they want to do. Not to say I don't appreciate my alone time, but I usually have no clue how to spend my alone time. I kind of just, my mind bounces at the wall, off the walls. I like will stare at the wall for hours. I really like being around other people, which is why I feel so lucky, like during COVID time, to be able to do that in like a safe way. But I'm really into. Okay, so I haven't actually ever done it, and I wish that the school offered a class on it. But I'm really into like animation, and I wish so. It's similar to like the film topic too.
Yeah.
I just feel like with animation, like you can pretty much like display whatever you want on the screen. You can create whatever you want. You can display emotions like even better than like humans could like display emotions like on recording, because like it removes like that like awkwardness of like kind of like the acting, like, oh, you have to yell and cry at the top of your lungs because you're so passionate about this thing.
Right.
But you could just draw somebody doing that, and you could draw the exact emotion that you want like on their face, and it's like in that way I feel like very valuable lessons can be taught from animation. And I really wish UP offered a course on animation or a couple courses on animation, because it's so difficult to like get into. And I've been like working on my drawing for like a while. I got like a drawing pad that I can use with my computer. I'm like saving up for just like an iPad, which would just make that so much easier.
Yeah.
But I really want to get into animation, and I plan on taking like a course on it, maybe after college, maybe over the summer or something.
Yeah.
But I just want to be able to do like basic things, because I'm also like a big fan of like storytelling. I'm like an English minor, and I really love like those more creative writing oriented classes. Because like I don't want to toot my own horn so much, but I've just been through these experiences. I've lived in a lot of different places, met a lot of different people, done things that I really thought I should do, done things that maybe I shouldn't have done. And I want to be able to assign these experiences to different characters and different animations, whether they're shows or just like short animated things, animated music videos. Like I'm just really passionate about that. And right now I have some storyboards going just with drawings. It'll be, just like 9 drawings on a page, and I want to be able to do all the connecting frames in between, and kind of, like a flip notebook or whatever.
Yeah, like this.
But that's like my idea for the capacity of animation I can do right now.
Yeah.
But, or just taking a picture of every single individual frame.
Yeah.
Of course, it would be something like 10 frames per second, not like a full 60.
If you just,
yeah.
it would take a lot more drawings, but 24 frames a second with, all sorts of different drawings like that, it'd take a long time. But
yes, months.
That'd be dope. But I love that you're getting into it, because the possibilities with anime. I'm already screwing up on my own first podcast. Yeah, so like the possibilities with animation are just pretty much endless now. And I remember reading something about Pixar a few years ago or so, and with how exactly they rendered the very original Toy Story. Guess how much space that would take up, like whether it's in megabyte, or gigabyte, or terabyte. The whole movie.
The whole movie. I'm guessing it'd probably have to be like at least like 500 gigabytes of space.
That's a good guess, and it's how I would have guessed when I first found it out. But apparently, it's like, and I may be getting this totally wrong. So someone here just fact check us. But I think it may have been less than like 50 gigabyte.
Wow.
With the way it was animated. Now, now that may not have been like the exact stat I was looking at, but one I also did look at was that if you took the original Toy Story and you rendered the whole thing right now, like if you already had the file up on your editing timeline and you were to export that onto like a cinema quality file, if you did that now, it would probably take like 30 minutes.
Right.
It took Pixar like 2 months to render the whole thing. In 1994 or 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's...
No, it's...
Technology's crazy, man.
It is crazy, because, I'm exporting, a video from Movie Maker right now.
Yeah.
It'll take, a couple minutes to render.
It's crazy.
But it definitely, I remember even, with like older laptops, when I was making my first like little videos for YouTube back in like probably like 2014 or 2015, just with my older shittier laptop on an older version of Movie Maker, it took even longer then, and it's even gotten shorter and like more optimized throughout the years. Mm-hmm. And I can thank my laptop for it.
Yeah.
And a big part too. It's like a fast laptop. It's supposed to be a gaming laptop. I only have like Minecraft installed on it, but not a big PC gamer. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I can thank my laptop for it, and yeah, I mean, technology is just moving in amazing directions.
The main short film that I made, that was like a documentary on it was a promotional film on my old rowing team that I had shot and edited as like a big swan song for them during my senior year. I edited that all on my laptop in 4K, and it added up to like 9 minutes or so. And it was still exporting like right before I was gonna show it to the whole team. And with the new computer that I have right now, that is able to run at the same sort of stuff it has. And the computer's from like 2013 or so. And when I first bought it, I was like, I'm just gonna test out the full capabilities of this 8K uncompressed surround sound and see what I could do. And it did in like a few minutes.
That's insane.
Yeah, and it was just like a little warm blow of the fan on it. Mm-hmm. But other than that, it just did it. And I was like, I gotta be doing more.
Yeah.
But I forgot to ask you, what kind of animation are you doing right now? What is the backstory of it all? What's
Oh, okay. So the focus is like, so I'm like really into like anime and stuff. So I really like that style, and the style that I draw in is like heavily inspired by like anime stuff. Yeah. But the story the story I've like thought out about the most is, I don't know, I can kind of just explain it, but it's about this dude who's like looking for his friend, and it all takes place on like this big long road trip. And the thing is, you can't tell when he's like dreaming, and you can't tell when he's awake. So there's like a little bit of like an Inception thing going on.
Whoa.
But like the more like the show goes on, the more obvious it is when he's like dreaming, and the more obvious it is when he's awake. But basically my idea for the end of the show is that I don't want it to end with him awake. I want it to end with him like in the dream, and he's like looking for his friend. Maybe he finally catches up with them, maybe he doesn't. But my idea is that like, there's not too much difference between like dreams and reality.
Right.
And my idea is that like, I don't know. It's pretty much that, and
Yeah.
I want the resolution to be in a dream and to show how that dream is, just as satisfying as reality.
Yeah.
But that's
Sounds awesome. I want to see what it's done.
honestly, yeah, it'll be a while before that's done. I got
See, this what you're listening to right now. This is like the creative sort of sparks that creators like to feel within others when they're collaborating. So you just got a little glimpse of that.
Yeah, honestly, I haven't told many people about that idea, but I feel like, maybe people will think it's interesting. Maybe it's stupid and we're just dumb, but no, I don't believe that's the case.
There's no such thing as stupid when it comes to art and creation.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to understand that because I used to be the kind of person who would just trust the critics no matter what. Mm-hmm. And, that just helped me formulate my opinions about other stuff, which, it can be good because that can just, like cement yourself as like one of the people that is fighting for a certain opinion or something. But then again, like you got to have your own opinion about things. So,
I mean, and as long as you're kind of strong in your own opinions, I feel like it doesn't really matter what other people say about them because it's
doesn't.
like just a flex off of you.
Yeah.
People are always like, oh, once you stop caring about what others think, that's when like you're living the good life, and that's so like cliche to say, but I feel like, I mean, obviously I still care what others think, and
Right.
I don't know, like criticism always, like it still affects me and stuff like that, but I feel like I'm moving closer towards that like not caring so much thing, like kind of like eat an entire Reese's bunny on the way home from the grocery store type thing.
Yeah.
That's a very specific situation, but that kind of like vibe is what I'm trying to like be like, and just I don't know,
Yeah.
just not really care what others think.
I do what I want.
Yes,
Something like that.
definitely. Yeah, I mean, well, thank you for sharing on your passion.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoy talking about mine as well, but I guess we can move on to like the next question,
Definitely,
which is just like can you tell us about your cultural background? Before we get into that, let me just emphasize that like me and Norman are just some white dudes, so I'm sure there's more to it, but right off the bat, there we
can still
go.
find something.
Yeah, honestly.
There's always things to find. Yeah, so I was born in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and so I still have that same sort of cowboy sort of lifestyle when I was growing up very little. I think it was either my great great grandmother or my great 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 grandmother. She was a Cherokee Indian who died on the Trail of Tears, and I just found out about that like a few weeks ago.
That's crazy. Like, how did you find out? Like through Ancestry.com or something like that?
My mom did like an Ancestry.com thing a few years back, and so she was able to trace like a lot of like her family, her roots and everything. Mm-hmm. And I did learn from that I have a lot of Norwegian ancestry, but like I knew that I was like a 16th or so Cherokee Indian, like when I was very little, or even from that, I just can't exactly remember. But when I did learn about that, it was pretty much through looking through old family photos, and we were cleaning out the garage, and my mom was like, "Oh yeah, this is your great great grandmother, or your great 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 grandmother. She died on the Trail of Tears." And I was just like, "Wow."
Well, you never, you just never expect something.
I just
like
didn't
that.
know it was that like close in time to me, or
Yeah.
like close on the family tree to me. So
No, that's true.
yeah, that was pretty eye opening for me. So yeah.
Yeah. And the concept of time is like so weird. Like I always see these things that's like, oh, like, when your parents were growing up or something, they were still using the guillotine in France. I don't know if that's true, but it's always something like that where you're just like,
I had
what?
to trudge through floods and mud and dirt to get to
Yeah.
school every day.
Uphills both way,
Yeah.
in the snow, barefoot,
But yeah.
the whole spiel. But yeah, that's really interesting, honestly. Yeah.
And I did like my mom was born in San Antonio, and so she lived. She didn't really live in Texas much, but she did. She did live in Oklahoma for a long time, and she went to, I think it was Tulsa University for a couple years, and then I think she switched to community college, and that would have just qualified her as like not graduating, me being first gen. And my dad was born in San Diego, California, and he had a military dad who was in the Coast Guard, and so. My dad, he has 4 siblings, and so that was a big family that was moving around a lot. And I don't think my grandfather was ever like on any sort of battlefield or any sort of battleship sort of naval battlefield or whatever. But they lived like when my dad was little, like all across the world, like in Thailand at one point, and lots of parts of Virginia. And until they finally settled in all sorts of different parts of Washington. And so when my parents met, they both met in Seattle, and then when they had me, they were already in Tulsa. And then for a different job, for a period of our lives, we had to pivot over to the worst place on planet Earth, which is called Fort Wayne, Indiana. Everyone is just mean. And it was like the formative era of my childhood, and that's something I don't want to take away from me, but it did suck.
Yeah.
And so me and my parents, we're working class, and we're like lower middle class, and we were hit pretty hard by the housing crisis in 2007, 2008.
Yes.
And my dad lost his job. And he found a job in Portland, but during that time, me and my mom were still back in Fort Wayne, still trying to sell the house. And I think it was during that time when I started really just take shape in my head, like even with just like I don't have any siblings, and so I was pretty much their only kid that they were raising and are raising, and I think just that whole big 1.5 year long period of my life pretty much just formulated in my mind that there is no harder job or more respected job in the world than being a mother. And I just think of all the days in which she's had to clean the house and make me meals and drive me to school every day when I was like 7 or 8 years old, while still trying to sell this big house in the neighborhood that no one wants to buy. And I just will always have tremendous respect for her and doing all that. And, I aspire to be able to be in a position, or at least to be ready to be in a position like that sometime when I'm older. And, come Christmas 2008, we moved to Portland, and things just went from there. Mm-hmm. That's the best way I can describe my cultural background, but yeah.
Yeah. I can definitely relate to like parts, like my family was also hit by the housing crisis. My dad lost his job as well. And we were living in, this decently nice suburb in LA County.
Is that where you were born?
A little place called Valencia. Yes, I was born in Glendale, California. So I've just been moving like more north since I was born. Just keep on moving north. I guess I got to move to like Seattle next year or something, but no, not really. But definitely during the big housing crisis, we moved up to this like small kind of farm town called Dixon, California, and it was just like it's kind of in the middle of like the Bay Area, like San Francisco, and then like the capital, Sacramento. So it's just like dead in the middle. But we lived out kind of like in the middle of nowhere. And at that point, like, my parents didn't have jobs. So we were kind of struggling a bit financially. And luckily, like, we knew the person who like had this property, and basically the agreement was like, we're gonna work on this property and work for this person for free, and then we get to live here. and the house was built in 1864, I want to say. So it was an old house, very creepy. I'm convinced it was haunted. Lots of stairs. To go to my room, I think I had to go up like 4 flights of stairs. But it would be like, you'd think I'd love living in like this great big house, but it was like this rundown great big house. Like, you'd never know if the room was just gonna be like very spooky and dilapidated looking. The house was dilapidated itself. We were afraid the foundation was gonna cave in, but
I think I remember like when I had an English class with you sophomore year, you talked about, you had like an essay about writing about how spooky your house was.
yes, I definitely wrote about this like experience in that class.
Yeah.
But it was crazy, and living there was like a very like eye-opening experience for me, because I went from living in like, this like suburb in LA to living out in the middle of nowhere in Northern California, where for some reason it was even hotter than LA during the summers, but way colder than LA like during the winters too. And I don't know, I lived there from like the age of like 10 to 14 or 15, and it was like definitely the hardest living situation I've ever had to live in, or probably will ever have to live in. And same thing I know for at least my mom. For my dad, he's been through a lot himself, but that was definitely like the most life-changing experience I had. And from there forward, I kind of just started to be satisfied with really like the smallest little things. So I think that it was like overall a good experience for me, and I wouldn't take it back. Even if maybe my life would have gone a different way, if my dad kept his job, we kept our house in LA, and I got to grow up with like the friends I went to school with, like elementary school with, because it's like right now, like the oldest friend that I have, like the longest time I've known a friend is like, it's like 5 years, and that is like my oldest friend I met like 5 years ago, and so it's only been like 5 years now, and just like moving from place to place. Before I really had like a phone or like the internet. I had like my Game Boy. That was the only thing I had. There's no like, cross state or cross country messaging on like a Game Boy. Yeah. So I couldn't really keep a lot of the friends that I had, and that's why I feel like I really just want to help create a community that is like welcoming to others, because like everybody deserves a place to belong, no matter how long you've like known people. That shouldn't be like what matters. What matters is like, the connections that you make, and the things you have in common with people, or even the things that you don't have in common but you can appreciate about other people.
Absolutely.
And that's really all I can say about my culture. I don't have like a big family at this point. It's really just my mom, my dad, and my brother.
Older or younger?
Older brother,
cool.
2 years. So yeah, at this point, that's really all it is. At least like locally, like we have some like very like distant family, but we're not too much in contact with them. So it's like it's a very small, easy to like manage the relationships in my family, because it's just like 3 other people at this point. And I don't know. I really appreciate my family. My dad is like Irish and Puerto Rican, and I don't know how into his own culture he is, but I definitely think it's an interesting combination for sure. There's a lot of backstory for both of those places, and my dad, he has been like pretty much on his own since like probably like 14 or like 15. Whoa. So he's been through a lot, and then my mom has like been there with him from like 15 or 16 or whatever.
Yeah.
So they've always been kind of together, just like fighting through it, no matter what happened. And my mom is like German and like Croatian. Those are I guess the nationalities of my parents. So yeah, I mean, yeah.
What made you choose UP?
Oh, so not gonna lie, a big factor was like all the money and like grants they wanted to give me, because my other options, like there was schools like I really wanted to get into, like San Diego State University was like a big one for me, but I didn't end up getting in. And then another one I really wanted to go to was University of Victoria in Victoria, Canada. But
I actually remember visiting University of Victoria. Like,
Yeah.
For our listeners, I used to. I'm so sorry, I'm interrupting.
no problem. Go ahead.
For our listeners listening, I used to row crew, and I've pretty much like the only country I've ever traveled to was Canada. But I do remember, all the crazy like fun regattas that I would row at, and I did visit University of Victoria once with a friend of mine, and I did consider UVic for a while.
Yeah.
And I heard they're really cool.
See, I thought I'd never had the opportunity to actually go there, but it looked beautiful from
Absolutely,
the pictures
yeah.
I've seen.
British Columbia is just one hell of a place to visit.
Definitely. But, that school is really expensive, especially if you are not a Canadian citizen.
Right.
So that was kind of a limiting factor there. And then there was like another couple of state schools around that. Actually, I was going to end up going to Sacramento State University just because it was like the easy in and it was close, and my parents wanted me to stay like originally. And as much as I wanted to go to UP, I don't know. I kind of just wanted to like satisfy my parents as well. But that night when I was like, I had already made up my mind. I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to Sac State, and whatever, I'll do whatever there. And then my parents were like, no, like if you want to go to UP, like you can go to UP. And I really appreciated it because like one, like I mean, financially, like my parents are like, I mean, we've always, of course, gotten financial support and stuff like that, but they just really value, like, good education, and that's always, like, what they spent their money on. It's, like, it was never, like, anything for, like, themselves or, like, our living situation, and, we rent a little house, and they always just were willing to put their money into education for me and my brother, because that's what they thought was the most important. Or that's what they think is the most important. And it's like, I don't know, sometimes it frustrates me because I'm like, why don't you guys do anything for yourself? But not frustrates me in like a negative way. It's more just like I really want them to be able to, use their money for what they want to as well.
Yeah.
But they were like, yeah, you can go to UP. And honestly, I get so much financial support that it's not, it's not like a huge burden or anything.
Right, yeah.
But I feel like that's the case for a lot of people too. Like a lot of people are here on scholarship. A lot of people aren't paying the full $60,000. Not saying that it wouldn't be worth it, but it definitely would be a huge limiting factor for a lot of people if it was the full $60,000 they had to pay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I just thought about like life in Portland too, because college isn't just about the education. It's also about, starting a life for yourself and like living, existing, and just like learning all the lessons, you have to learn in college.
Yeah.
And I just thought Portland sounded like a really cool place to experience that. I don't know. The more I learn about Portland, I don't know, kind of the more interesting it gets, like the backstory here is very
it can, yeah.
wild. So I don't know. I guess I would probably want to remain in Portland for a bit. Hopefully, I hope to be part of, the change in Portland. Yeah, I considered my options, and this was the one that gave me the money I needed to go to a place like a private school like this, and two, sounded like the most interesting place for me to live out of all of my options.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate where you're coming from because, something that a lot of people our age are going to have to experience is, breaking out of your comfort zone and, not just that, but physically breaking out of it and going to live like in some other part of the country to have your education or continued education. And I will always appreciate the sorts of people who do that, or even like the people who have been working since their like early teen years. And I just if you put in the work and you decide to put it in early, that's just something I'm gonna immediately want to like hire someone for.
Right.
And as someone who just lives 30 minutes away from campus, that's just something I'm gonna have to experience later on than most people. So I totally respect and love where you're coming from with that.
Yeah, well, thank you. And it's not like I've been, having like these formal official jobs since a young age. I would even say that my time living on like kind of like a ranch farm type situation has made me extremely like just opposed to like the physical labor part of things. Like I hate that stuff now.
Yeah.
But I do feel like it was very good for me to do that. It made me stronger, like not only like physically, obviously, but like mentally. A nice hard day's work in what we had was almond trees, and picking up almonds and hulling almonds, and
I didn't know almonds came in from trees.
yeah, cracking almonds. You wouldn't expect it, right? See,
Right.
I didn't know that either before I moved there, but. A hard day's work of picking up almonds was definitely good for me back then. Now, I would much rather spend my work time doing non like physical laborious type tasks. I not to say like, oh, I have all these years of wisdom, but like
attending classes on Zoom.
Yes, attending classes on Zoom. That is my ideal. No, I'm kidding, but you get what I mean.
I know what you mean.
I like writing and having meetings and just communicating, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
That is my ideal form of work. But, yeah, but I know if I ever have to have like a physical labor job again, I know I can get through it.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's
and that's something that rowing taught me too, because it's a brutal sport.
Mm-hmm.
It's both strength and cardio at the same time, and it's considered a team sport because you're always like rowing in the same boat with guys, and I feel like this can definitely be achieved when you're on the water, whether you're like sailing or you're partying with friends or whatever on a speedboat or something, but this can definitely be felt in a rowing boat too, which is that when you're pulling strokes at the same time as others and you're in time with others, like when it comes to individual body movements, there's just this feeling of grace and perfect fluidity that you feel with others, and I can't describe it, but it's beautiful when you experience it. And I think there was even a documentary that came out like about a year ago, and it was about these two Chicago gangs that they had its members like row at the same rowing club, and they had to put aside their differences to be able to just row in the same boat for like a couple hours, 5 days a week.
I think I've heard about this too.
Like the most beautiful thing. I think it was narrated by Common. I haven't seen it yet, but I heard it's really good. And that's even something like that, when you're just rowing in unison with other people. You just don't think about those grudges or intimate negative feelings that you may have about others. Sometimes they can even turn positive.
Right.
And I'll admit I have had feelings about that with other people I've rowed with, but that sort of thing just happens with any kind of like angry teenage angst.
Mm-hmm.
But so you definitely get that out of any sort of rowing session, but not just with rowing, but like you can definitely when it comes to like grace and perfect in time fluidity and stuff like that. I don't even know what I'm saying, but it kind of ties back into the whole themes behind why first gen is first gen.
Yeah.
We connect with others. We do stuff together.
Mm-hmm. We do hard work together.
Hard work together, yeah.
Yeah. No, I can relate to that too. I didn't do rowing. I did water polo for a few years though, and
Water polo sucks.
oh,
I mean, like
loved
it hurts.
Yeah.
I don't mean to sound, oh my man. I mean, it sucks physically.
Oh, physically. You know how people are like, Coach, put me in the game. Take me off the bench. Put me in the game. I was the person waving down my coach like, Coach, I did it. I made the goal. Please take me out. I'm so tired. Like, I need to go sit on the bench. And I would like be so physically exhausted. I don't know. I don't think I swim the most efficiently, but I loved water polo. It was difficult, I would say, in one aspect, like physically, but like the technical side of the game, there's very few rules. Like, don't touch the wall, don't touch the floor, shoot the ball in the goal with one hand, no two hands on the ball, and then it's pretty much like, beat the crap out of anybody else in the pool if you want to. As long as the ref doesn't see, I guess you're just, you're liable to just get very, like hurt, which is something that I honestly enjoyed. Not like I ever used that against others, but it was like there would be that one person who it's like you knew they were going to play dirty.
It's a stress reliever.
Yeah, and it's like you knew you just had to like, either play around that or just, expect that, you're going to take a punch to the stomach or something under the water. And it's just so, like, funny to me, like, comical to me, too. But, I don't know. The rules of the game, very simple, easy to understand. All of the difficulty comes in actually, sprinting back and forth across the pool. Yeah. And, I don't know. Sometimes I wish I was, like, a goalie and could sit in one place, but... Yeah. At the same time, I'm not the biggest guy, so I had to play smart. But
so is it basically just like, let's just say you're a goalie? Is it just like treading water so much?
Yeah.
Just to be able to stay in one place? Because like, I do have a pool, and my dad also used to play water polo, so he taught me to swim. But I can't tread water for shit.
Really?
Nah, I mean I could, but the surface of the water only gets to like right here.
Yeah.
Is that where it's normally supposed to be, or?
No, I mean...
For those who aren't listening, I'm putting my hand on my sternum.
Like, basically, there's this thing called, like, egg beatering, which is, like, you want to, like, rotate your legs like this. Yeah. Like, I even forget how to do it. So many times my coach was like, you got to work on your egg beater, John. You got to work on your egg beater. But some people could come out to, like, their waist and just, like, slam that ball into the goal. I can only come out like barely above my nipples, I feel like. Yeah, I don't know. I just really enjoyed it, and I feel like treading water is just like the more practice you get, the more you feel like, wow, I could just tread water forever and be fine. And it's like the more you like optimize your treading of water, the more like you like are actually like gaining more energy than you're losing during that thing. And that's why I'm like, if I ever get thrown out to sea, it'll be the starvation that gets me. Yeah. But I mean, honestly, probably not. It'll be like the sharks or something much sooner than the starvation. But I don't know. I like being in the water a lot, which is weird because I also have like I have thalassophobia. It's just like fear of like deep water that you can't really see into, or like fear of like the unknowns down there. But in a pool you can see the bottom of the pool, so
sometimes I swim in the deep end of my pool and I still think a shark's gonna eat me.
Oh yeah, so definitely. Night swimming, oh my goodness, it's a whole different story. If you open your eyes underwater, it's like you're not even in your pool anymore. You're like in the middle of the ocean. Yeah, water polo was fun. I wish they had a pool here and there was like a club team or something.
I know.
Yeah, I don't know. I really wish we had a pool here. I know they plan on building one at like River Campus or something, but...
Yeah, remember when we thought River Campus was going to be finished by the time we graduate?
Oh, yeah. It was going to be like a whole nother city down there.
I know, yeah.
Panda Express, Chick-fil-A. Nobody ever promised those things. I kind of just expected all these like fast food places to open up down there.
Do you watch WandaVision?
No, but I have heard of it.
Yeah, because like a lot like it's a Marvel show, and it's the first like Marvel Cinematic Universe show, and fans have, particularly the Marvel fans, they had like a lot of expectations when the shows were coming out, or when each episode was coming out, and a lot of people were saying like, oh, we want this character, Doctor Strange is going to be back, Spider-Man's going to be in there. This is just a show about Wanda and Vision.
Yeah, and it's crazy how, because I see that in like different like just different communities all across the board.
Yeah.
I don't know if these
they want Harry
fans
Potter
are
and
like
Luke Skywalker to be in there too.
Exactly. Like I don't know if these fans are like 12 years old and just don't know any better, or like if like this is they're just so passionate about it that this is the way it is. And the thing is, it can get so extreme sometimes. It's like, oh yeah, if you don't put, cause I don't know, I guess it is possible for Star Wars to be in it because they're both part of that Disney universe now.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, if Baby Yoda isn't in WandaVision episode 3, I'm gonna send you a death threat. I'm sending a death threat to the editor. It's like, come on, man, like this is not your show.
I liked it though. A lot of people were not very like happy about like the way the witch was supposed to go, because they knew it was gonna like upset a lot of fan theories. But with the way they went, I think it's gonna be cool. I'm excited for what they have next. But anyway,
yeah.
Yeah.
I think because I mean I gotta head out in a minute here, but I think we should do these for fun questions.
Ooh, for fun questions.
End. Yeah, because talking about WandaVision, talking about TV shows. What is your favorite movie, TV show, or book? Or you could give a couple. I know it's really hard to choose.
My all-time favorite movie is this old Alfred Hitchcock movie called North by Northwest, and a lot of people credit it as like the first action movie. It's from like 1959. Have you seen like the that image of like the plane chasing after the guy, and the guy's running towards the camera, and the plane's gonna get him?
Honestly, it does bring back a little something when you say that. Yeah,
That's the movie. Now, obviously, that is like one scene in a big 2-hour movie, but it's even like the whole rest of the movie is just mind blowing, and it follows like one of Hitchcock's like main themes within his films is the wrong man arc, which is like you're mistaken for someone, so you're going to be on the run, and that's when it can like make connections with the sort of spy thriller that became popular in like the 40s with like noir sort of films. But this was one where I actually started to like feel big, like it was shot on VistaVision Technicolor, and it had like a big cast like Cary Grant and Eva Marie Saint and James Mason. And so when I watched that when I was like very little, because I watched a lot of TCM with my mom because she always had that channel on, and so when I watched that, I was very little. That that hit me. I think that was the one movie that made me think like I'd already been considering like wanting to make movies when I was little, when I was older, when I was little, but that was a movie I was like, yeah, I'm gonna make movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was awesome. Favorite TV show? I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this, but South Park. It's the greatest show of all time. Hands down.
It's a good show, dude. I mean, I'm personally like not like the biggest fan of South Park. I can respect that you really like that show, because I know so many people that like really love that show.
Yeah.
For me personally, I don't know what it is. I just like shows like South Park, shows like Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where the characters are just like assholes.
Terrible people.
Yeah, just terrible people. It's like I think the shows are so funny. Like I watch them, but I just cannot. Like I just hate the characters, you know. And it's like they're so funny, but it's like I just can't. I can't like stand them after a certain point.
Right, and I understand that like there are a lot of people who would find stuff like that or stuff like It's Always Sunny, like stuff like that. I understand that why they would think it would be considered like offensive, but and it's really hard to explain, but it is presented in a way to show pretty much like break down what's right and what's wrong in society, and what like should be said and what shouldn't be said.
Right.
And I could go into a million different examples of how something like South Park or something even like Borat or something or whatever could do something like that. But
Yeah.
yeah.
But I mean, at the end of the day, I would say it's for comedy's sake, but it's for more than just comedy's sake. It's kind of like, I mean, they're like social commentaries,
Yeah.
So it's like, I could see somebody being offended by the show if they took everything like literally
Right.
and thought it was like intentionally trying to be a certain way.
But then if we go in that direction, then comedy just would never be funny.
Oh no, yeah.
Because it's inherently like a social sort of thing. It's almost like something like South Park. It's daring to test, like, why are you laughing?
Right.
Yeah. Favorite book? And as an English major, I have the most generic taste in books. Even when, my forte is movies. But the, like, top ones I can narrow it down to are, like, To Kill a Mockingbird, Catcher in the Rye, The Boys in the Boat, which is like a true story on, Washington, University of Washington rowers back in like the 1930s during the Great Depression that were progressed so well in rowing that they went to the 1936 Berlin Olympics and they won gold in front of Hitler. This was the same Olympics that Jesse Owens was at. And it's just an incredible true story. And these were all like working class young men who, this was a time in Seattle when, people were living inside cardboard boxes. Mm-hmm. And it's just crazy to be able to think that they could earn something like that and earn that kind of recognition in, just before the world was going to go to shit.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Other books, probably Dune, because I'm just so freaking excited for the movie that's going to come out. And I do get a lot of I do feel inspired a lot by the books I do read in school, like in high school or college. I do like I think The Great Gatsby was the first book that I read in which I actually marked up as I was reading it.
Oh yeah, no, same here. That was
Really?
actually probably one of the first books I actually read all the way through and finished, and was like,
Really?
wow, I finished a book, and I was like, I want to say like 16 or something when I read that.
That's
but
cool.
I really liked that book. Yeah.
What about you? Movies, TV shows, books?
I'll start with the book. My favorite book is it's a short little kind of like kids book. It's The Little Prince. I don't know if you've ever.
I've heard of it, but I never read it.
Yeah, so it's like this little French book, and it's just about this kid who lived on his own little asteroid planet thing, and then he takes a journey and he comes to Earth and learns valuable lessons and stuff like that. You can honestly, I think the fastest I've ever finished that book was in now, I don't know if this is humanly impossible, but I want to say it's doable in 45 minutes. It's like a picture. It's like a picture novel. It's not like a graphic novel, but it's it's got pictures every once in a while, and it's just like a short little novel. And that's my favorite book, just for nostalgia's sake, and because I've read through it so many times. I've read through it in French too, and it's I took French in high school. I cannot remember for the life of me how to speak any coherent sentence
Same
in
for
French.
me with Spanish.
Yeah. And I wish I spoke more languages, but, we'll get there.
We'll get there.
Yeah, I can speak different nerd languages, for one. But
What kind of nerd languages?
just different video games.
Like Dothraki?
Oh, no, I mean
Vulcan?
kind of jargon used for if you think of a fighting game, there's all these different jargons used and I don't know, I can just read a sentence that is mostly numbers and maybe a capital letter next to it, but it's just it equals a combo in the game, but
I see.
it's done in this certain notation, and that is the language that I can read. Not really useful, but I remember reading The Little Prince in French, and because I already knew pretty much all the words, the whole story, I was actually able to read it all the way through in French and understand it, and I felt so accomplished.
Sweet.
But yeah, moving on to TV show. I already mentioned I'm a big fan of anime, but there's actually There's this show that came out last year called Japan Sinks 2020 that I'm so passionate about.
Yeah, I heard you talking about
Yeah. It's like an action drama, super emotional roller coaster.
I'm going to look it up if you don't mind.
Yeah, it's 10 episodes and it's on Netflix. You can watch it in one go like a movie or split it up, but it's about this family and their experience during a devastating earthquake in Japan. And I mean, it's not based on a true story. It is based on a book, but yeah, I really like that show and I recommend it to everyone. I think there's like such good life lessons. And like I was saying earlier about like emotions and like in animated shows, I feel like the emotions are done so well. And these characters aren't like super exaggerated, like giant eye anime characters. Like it's a pretty realistic style for an anime.
Yeah.
And like the emotions, you know, they're not always trying to make them look like super like cute and stuff like that. You know, they're not afraid to show like the ugly cries of these characters, and it's just like
They just look more human.
Yeah, and I don't know why I'm able to like empathize with these characters so much and like feel so deeply for them when it's like I will watch like like something live action and I won't be able to understand the characters as well, and it might just be a me specific thing or it might be, you know, the purpose of the show. But
yeah, I'm looking at the photos of the people in this show right now, and they just look like normal people.
Yeah,
they don't look like Goku or Akira or anything like that. So
the crazy spiky hair and like giant eyes that take up like yeah. I highly recommend that show. And then sticking on the subject of like anime, my favorite movie. Do you know like the Studio Ghibli movies?
Yeah, I've only seen a couple of.
Yes, my favorite one of all time is Howl's Moving Castle. I don't know if you've seen that one, but
one of these days I gotta have like a studio. Is it Ghibli or Ghibli?
Beats me.
Ghibli.
Ghibli.
A Studio Ghibli marathon.
Yes, highly recommend Howl's Moving Castle. It was like, it became my favorite movie because I saw it as like a kid when I was like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And I actually remember being kind of like afraid of it when I saw it, just because there's like some darker themes at certain points.
Yeah.
And I used to be a huge scaredy cat. I didn't actually think it was real. I thought I dreamt all of that. Mm-hmm. And then when I was like 13 or 14, I heard like the music for it in the background of like a YouTube video. And I was like, what is that? No, that music only exists within my head. And then I like looked at like the credits for the music and like the description of the video, and I find out, oh shit, this is a real thing. Like I didn't just dream this. And that's kind of like when I got into anime and animation in general in the first place. I was like, you know, like this is something I thought that I had created in my tiny 4-year-old brain.
Making little connections.
Yeah. And then I was just like, no, like this is a thing, and there's like a whole studio, and there's so many movies, and I was like, okay, I have to, you know, get into this now.
Yeah,
like this
definitely.
is what I've been waiting for.
I'm like that with so many filmmakers.
Yeah.
Do you know of this app called Letterboxd?
No.
And I hope I'm not like doing too weird of a plug because I'm not really associated with it. But Letterboxd is like a social media app for movie lovers. You can log and review movies. They pretty much grab all of their data from IMDb or somewhere else, and like if you go on here right now, like you have like stuff that's popular to look at, and you have like reviews that other people put up, and I have a feed of like my way of, you know, building up my account is by like farming likes of joke reviews that I write about movies, and you know, that's just pretty much my way of like building up my profile. I've only been active for like a few months and I have 91 followers. And
Nice.
Now I do have the benefit of having seen 1,176 films and rating them and having, you know, having too much time to rate them. But it's absolutely fun and I highly recommend it.
Yeah.
And so Letterboxd is a fun app that you can use to log films and connect with other movie lovers, and I'm sure there's plenty of Studio Ghibli people on there.
Oh, definitely. I could only imagine the things.
And definitely anime too. So
yeah, is it it's for like shows and stuff too then, or just
they have select shows like Letterboxd. I think is like a small company from New Zealand, and so I think when it comes to shows, like they have miniseries on there, but if they have like continuing shows and they deem it like a letterbox worthy kind of thing, something that could like fit their vibe.
Yeah.
The same way that like the Criterion Collection would handpick films that are like culturally or contemporarily relevant.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much how they choose on there. Like they could have stuff like third season of Twin Peaks to like WandaVision.
Right.
And stuff like that. So, they just pick stuff that would be popular and fun for people to write about
right.
at the moment. But yeah.
For sure.
Next question.
It's a nice point.
Favorite food?
Favorite food? For me, I really like sushi. I also really like burritos.
Sweet.
I had so much sushi last night. I got like 2 rolls and I just stuffed my face with sushi. It was so nice, so expensive, so expensive.
But
horrible
so worth
decision. Yeah, but also a great decision.
Good.
Delicious decision. And then burritos, I also love. There's this place called Rose City Taqueria. Like, it's like 5 minutes from here. Like a burrito there is like $6, but it's like like huge, and it's just delicious.
I'll have to go there then.
Yeah, I highly recommend it.
My main go-to Mexican place near campus is El Burrito Azteca. Is it El Burrito Azteca?
I've heard of that.
Or I think that's what it's called. I don't know if that's a place near my house or near campus, but I think that's what it's called. Mm-hmm. It's not Cha Cha Cha, and it's not something else, but that's like the main place I went to. And when my parents were helping me move in, like that was one place we went to have our last sort of like close connection before I would officially move in.
Yeah.
But pasta for me, any kind of Italian food.
Oh yeah.
Because of COVID, I'm living back at home.
Mm.
I've been definitely trying to like dip my hands more into cooking, and my girlfriend's been helping me with that as well. So that's been very fun to do. And I've made like all sorts of different sandwiches, and I have cooked like a few dishes of pasta, but so that definitely gets very fun. I've just been a big fan of pasta when I was little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Mom's spaghetti. That's my
Mom's
favorite.
spaghetti.
That's my favorite. Honestly, I changed mine because whenever
I thought you
go
were doing
home,
like a Eminem reference for a second.
Oh no! Actually, Mom's spaghetti is like whenever I go home, like I need it. And my brother and my dad don't even really like it that much, but like I love it for some reason. Like I will have her make enough for like me to eat leftovers for like a few days, and like honestly, sometimes for like days straight. Well, it'll just be like lunch, pasta, midnight snack, pasta.
That's a dream.
Spaghetti, yeah. Red meat sauce and just whatever noodles. I don't really care. Not angel hair though, because the consistency is weird to me.
Definitely.
But yeah.
Hobbies. Well, you know me. Filmmaking, shooting, editing my own stuff. I love playing guitar. I love music, but not like the kind of music that you would think. I love music pretty much from like the 50s to the 90s. Mm-hmm. Like specifically that era. I feel like I listen to a lot from that sort of era. I've been playing guitar for about 11 years, but right when I started rowing, I just stopped like officially taking lessons. I try to have like the same sort of level of guitar playing as a friend would at a campfire. Mm-hmm. Like if I was like hanging out with friends and we were all like hanging out and I see a guitar next to me, I'm like, just pick it up and play something for a few hours.
Definitely.
That's my kind of thing. But yeah, and I tend to learn more by ear, and I know this is cheating, but I learn by tabs, like which is like a pretty much like the sheet version of sheet music.
See, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I find sheet music so much easier than tabs. I think it's just because I grew up playing like the trumpet, so I kind of came to like learn sheet music in that way, and I just find it easier than tabs because tabs I don't really understand at all.
It may just be like the way that one can be. I don't think it even has to do with skill because it's not like socially put upon you.
Yeah.
But I just feel like it could definitely have to do with either tactile or visual sort of cues that we would receive when looking at stuff like that.
Definitely.
And having to translate that onto whatever instrument we're playing.
I think it's just like seeing the notes is like I can think about what sound it's supposed to make rather than like I don't know, like the fingerings I can have like a different guide up
That's what
for
she said.
like each note. And then it's like, oh, I know if this fingering makes this note, then it's like then I'll know that for every other song here on out. And it's not like I have it memorized. I know like 2 songs. I can play Blackbird by the Beatles, obviously.
On trumpet?
No, on guitar.
Oh, guitar. Cool.
Yeah, I'm talking about guitar. And then I can play John Bellion's Guillotine, which is really simple and easy, but
I've never heard of that song.
it's cool. It's just got
It's
like
cool.
a cool guitar melody to it.
Cool.
But there's other songs I'm like working on, but like over the course of once here and there.
Cool.
Every once in a while. I have a few roommates that play guitar. I've definitely seen your guitars hanging up like in the
Yeah.
background of your Zoom calls.
Yeah.
Yeah, they look dope.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really
much.
like that display on the wall. I don't even have my own guitar. I just like use other people's guitars.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like kind of the same way where it's just like I want to be able to pick up the guitar, play a song, and then put it down. You're probably much better than me on guitar.
Everyone learns different. And everyone
That's-
plays
yeah.
different, so.
I remember I had this like meeting with McDonald.
Did he play his guitar?
And he had his guitar in there, and
I'm listening.
I was like, we were going over like an essay or something, and one it was dope because like it was like my final essay, but I had already like written like an essay the length that the final essay needed to be, so I was like, so for my final essay, can I just do like a 2-pager then? And he was like, yeah, I guess that makes sense. And then I was like, okay, sick. About the guitar, I was like telling him about like this song that I like was learning, which was just Blackbird, because he talked about being able to play Blackbird in class. And
In class?
he talked about it one day, just like
Oh,
that
like
was
mentioning
like
in class. I
yeah.
thought you meant like he played the guitar in class.
Oh no, he didn't. You would have remembered that, of course. Yeah, it has been a while. I miss McDonald, honestly, but
I miss being in France.
yeah,
It's just feels good to be back in the classroom.
it is nice to be here.
I mean, not officially, but
Anyways, he handed me his guitar and he was like, "Okay, play it then." And I remember messing up a bit, but he complimented me and he told me to keep playing guitar because he liked it, and I was just proud that I was able to like play that song because I got the inspiration to learn that song because he talked about it as being like a cool party trick in class, and then I was
it
like,
can be, yeah.
I was like, yeah, I just
More
wanna,
so than Stairway to Heaven.
definitely
Never play that in a guitar
no.
store.
Definitely.
Never.
And my friend Kai always played Blackbird by the Beatles on guitar, and I really liked hearing him play it. And so I was just like, "Teach me this song."
Yeah.
And then he like pretty much I never watched a video or anything. I just did what Kai said, and I'm pretty sure he doesn't even play it the correct way because he kind of just like figured out how to play it by like the sounds. So it's like I don't play it like the correct way, but you can get the gist of it, you know. And he taught me like one part at a time. I would work on it for like a week until my fingers like bled, built up the calluses. The next week I could play more, started learning it faster, and it took me like 3 months to learn that first song. And I don't know scales or anything else, but
Okay.
I didn't mean to steal away.
Don't.
You're,
You're all good. We're all
guitars,
jumping in
yeah.
on whatever we want to talk about.
Yeah.
My go-to guitar songs are either Fire and Rain, James Taylor, or Sultans of Swing, Dire Straits.
Nice.
Yeah, they're pretty fun to play.
Yeah.
There was a period of me learning guitar, and this was around the time that I stopped doing lessons. I bought a classical guitar when I was like 13 or 14. And if you don't know what those are the kinds of guitars they use not nylon strings. They use, maybe they do use, it's not nylon strings. Maybe it is. No, I don't even know what I'm talking about, man. I think they use nylon strings, and that just offers like a different way of being able to play guitar. There's more of a focus on fingerings, and there's more of a focus on trying to, if you were to condense like all the parts of like, let's say a rock song, whether it's like the beat, the rhythm, the lead, the bass, and the vocals, if there was a way to be able to transfer all of those into notes, and you just put all of that on one guitar, that's pretty much what classical guitar fingerstyle is.
Yeah.
And I was learning fingerstyle for a long time. And then when I was able to transition from that into, the kinds of songs I play now, which are like stuff from the 50s to the 90s, it just gets so much fun because then you can be able to play all sorts of different parts of a song, just all on one guitar.
Yeah.
I remember, I was playing something funny. I was playing like funny songs for my girlfriend at one time, and I played the theme song from Friends, "I'll Be There for You."
Yeah.
And I was doing the chords, but then I was doing the at the same time as the chords.
Nice.
And so, that's the fun part of guitar. It sounds like a lot harder than I'm making it sound, but for real, it's actually kind of easy once you have like that sort of experience down.
Yeah.
It just all it really takes is just knowing like what chords to play, scales on like certain parts of the neck, guessing where those notes could be when you're anticipating it, particularly if you're playing that song for the first time. And so it's a lot easier than it would look.
Kind of relating back to like the topic of just like funny songs, because I started thinking about something. I'm sorry. I started like thinking about just like I am a really big fan of like just like comedy music or like not necessarily like parody music. Like parody music can be kind of cringe, but just like
meme music,
like comedy music.
Bum, 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 ba-da-ba-da,
Yes, that. But like
that's it, folks. Thank you for listening.
Honestly.
That's cool. Have you learned anything like that?
Well, like stuff we would do is like we would set up like the electric guitar and so, like instead of playing like Blackbird on like a just your normal guitar. I'm blanking on what they're called. Just like a acoustic guitar.
Acoustic, yeah.
We would set it up on like the electric guitar and then put it on like max reverb and then play it as like fast as possible. And it would just be so funny just to hear like the song in that way. And I also am like a big fan of just like freestyling from time to time, and it'll just be on like random topics, but like it's never anything serious. It's always supposed to, or sometimes it gets serious, but like it's always just supposed to be something absurd or like funny.
Right.
And this isn't a spoiler because it's not true, but there's this song that I made at one point called Iron Man Dies at the End of Infinity War, which is not true. That doesn't happen. It's not a spoiler.
He dies at the end of Endgame.
Yeah. But yeah.
That's a spoiler.
That is a spoiler right there. Yeah, basically that was like the name of the song. And then I don't even think the song was anything like even vaguely related to that, but I just thought that was like a really funny name for the song. So
Really funny name, now I think about it.
It'll just be like shit like that. But as far as like returning to the question of hobbies, I wouldn't say that's like my biggest hobby or anything, or like that like guitar is like my biggest hobby. Like those are things that I like to do. But honestly, I would say my biggest hobby is probably like either skateboarding, more specifically longboarding, because I like to go like really fast.
Did you get here by longboard?
No, I drove.
Oh, okay.
Because I had to pick up the mic from Mel's house,
Got it.
and I couldn't make it all the way around in time. I like going really fast. I don't care so much for tricks and stuff. I just like the speed of it. And so that's why I really like longboarding. I also like to be able to like have somebody else stand on the skateboard and like I'm still able to like longboard, or like somebody else sit on there.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that's another reason why I like the longboard is because like I think that's like a cool experience for other people when it's like they can just like sit down and then I can just like take them somewhere
Yeah.
on the longboard.
I've always struggled with getting the kind of balance to be able to ride on a skateboard or a longboard. Is it easier than it seems?
I think it's always like hard at first. My dad is like really into skateboarding. So I think I've just been doing it since like a young age. And it's like I've never gone like hard with skateboarding. But it's just like I feel like him just having me do it from a young age. Like I used to be, the little kid sitting on his longboard as he, rode around. And so like just like learning how to do that and falling so many times like really just made me not be afraid of falling for one, Like at this point, I mean, I say like I will never fall off a skateboard or
You
like
fall
a
off all the
longboard.
time.
When I'm bombing hills, that's when like the kind of the wipeouts come in. Normally, no, I'm never gonna fall off. But bombing hills, yeah, I will still fall off. I'm still not too great at that. I
Yeah.
need to get better at that. One of my biggest hobbies, and then my other biggest hobby is like gaming, and more specifically like just getting like competitive with like a game, just like learning like the meta game and stuff like that. I don't know. It's dumb in one regard, which I really like because I'm like this game is supposed to be like for fun, but like some people take it so competitively and like they get like so angry at it. And for me, I know like specifically maybe talking about a game like Smash Bros, which is like a party game for like everyone. Some people take it so seriously and competitively, and it's just like I know that competitive side of the game is all like a construct. It's all been made by like other people. But it's like at the same time like there's just so much like optimization to be done in the game. And I really like just like playing that competitive side even if I'm not looking so much into the competitive side myself. I like playing against those competitive people because like they pose like such like it's like such like a challenge to beat them, and when
Right.
you beat them it like it feels like more rewarding. So I'll like gravitate towards like the ranked side of like a game and stuff like that.
Yeah. What do you like to play besides Smash?
Honestly, Apex Legends, which is like Fortnite but for adults, I would say. Like Fortnite but like mature, is like my favorite game right now that I like to play. Smash I kind of like fell out of a while ago, but Apex Legends is like two of my roommates play it as well, so we run like a squad. And I really like the idea of like battle royales because it's like every game is like a different story,
So do I, yeah.
and like you go through like different things, but it's like it's always like a different story, and it's always so like stressful, like you and your teammates just against everything, like
Yeah.
all of the elements. And like I remember this one match a couple weeks ago. It was like us versus the other final team, and we were like fighting, and our best player, my friend Kai, like went down, and it was like, oh no. And then I ran in and I like took out one of the guys, but there was still one left. Like the storm came in, you know, like how in battle royales the circle closes. The storm came in and I got downed, and I just turned to my teammates and I saluted, and I was like, I tried my hardest. Meanwhile, I look and I see my other teammate on the screen just running away from the storm as fast as possible. And the last dude that I was fighting ended up dying to the storm, and suddenly like I'm downed and I get back up and it's like victory, and I had already like saluted my friends and accepted defeat, and
Oh, man.
I said I did the most I could.
That's
and then
funny.
that like just the little stories like that
Yeah.
go along, and it's like different every time.
We're getting closer and closer to a Ready Player One-esque sort
Yes.
of like era when it comes to games.
Definitely.
And when that comes, let's face it, everyone's going to jump on it. It's going to be awesome.
Oh, it's gonna be the new reality.
And you know, like in today's era, there are like a lot of, you know, gaming is a sort of like, you know, community to kind of like make fun of because, you know, it is games, and
yeah.
you know it does attract like a lot of adults. But when COVID came, like all gamers finally got the recognition.
Oh,
like
yeah.
everyone was at home quarantining. Meanwhile, they were there from the start, you know.
Yeah.
So
No, definitely.
rise
like,
up.
stuff like since the start of quarantine, stuff like video games and like anime have just become more like mainstream and less
Yeah.
of like a niche thing, and I really like it. And it's like some people in the community are like, oh, like these people are only doing it because of the trend or whatever. But please stay after the trend is over, because we want these communities to be bigger.
Right, yeah.
And it's like, even if it's just a trend, like everything starts with a trend,
Yeah.
you know?
And I used to play a lot when I was like middle school age.
Mm-hmm.
And for a time, like I was a part of that sort of community that was like, oh, gaming is weird.
Yeah.
Whereas on the inside, I was like, I play a lot.
Yeah. Like,
and you know, because of COVID, I have gotten back into it. So, you know, So you play Smash and Apex Legends and
Yeah.
what
And
else do you
then I love Animal Crossing, just on the more calm side of things. Animal Crossing is a great game. I love like the Dark Souls type of games that are just like really challenging but also rewarding. And I would say like fighting games are something I'm like really big into, like Tekken, Street Fighter,
Yeah.
stuff like that. I really like those games. I have no natural talent for fighting games, including like Smash, which is more of a party game, but still like people
Yeah.
treat it like it's a fighting game. I have no natural talent for that, but I was just looking at like the amount of hours that I have into like Smash, for example, and I did the math, and I was like, if I spent these hours working a minimum wage job in Oregon, I would have made like $80,000 at this point. But instead, I wasted it all playing this game.
Yeah.
And I just like, I don't know. I don't regret it per se, but I'm now it's like eye opening, where I'm just like,
Yeah.
I don't have as much time to play games anymore.
I'm
So
pretty much
it's
like
like,
that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I like to think of games as an escape, and even though I used to spend a lot of time doing that, as long as I just reinforce my head, like I am growing, I am progressing as a college student, I am getting more out of it than I anticipate.
Yeah.
Then I can still spend like a Saturday night playing video games.
Oh yeah.
So because I like to think of it as more of an escape rather than just like competition. I love open world games. I love although like I do like a lot of stuff like Call of Duty, where my best friend is he's an army specialist, and he's stationed out in the middle of nowhere in Kansas, and we've been playing a lot and watching a lot of stuff through because of COVID. Like we'd FaceTime and like see each other react to whatever we're doing.
Yeah.
And we played a lot of Warzone, and we played Rocket League, Battlefront, because we're both big Star Wars fans.
Yeah.
And by myself, I play a lot. I play like Assassin's Creed. I'm a big fan of Assassin's Creed.
Oh, love Assassin's Creed.
And I think Assassin's Creed is like the main reason why I do well in all my history classes.
I know, it's like so historically accurate for no reason.
They go into like months and sometimes even years of research before
Yeah.
they actually like code stuff.
Yeah, the movie was upsetting, unfortunately.
I haven't seen the movie, but I heard they're doing a Netflix series out of it now.
Oh, that could be better.
I mean, they did The Witcher on Netflix.
That's true. And the Witcher series, I haven't played The Witcher. I need to play that
I
game.
tried playing Witcher and I just couldn't get into it.
Yeah.
It was overwhelming.
I'm not like super into those RPG type games. I do love open world games. Like Legend of Zelda is my favorite franchise, and those are all like open world exploring type stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, those more RPG like level. You have to assign levels. Like I love action RPGs where it's like mostly like just like fighting. You don't really have to worry about all these like complicated item descriptions and stuff
Right,
like
yeah.
that. The Witcher is like a game I've been meaning to play, but honestly,
There's just a lot of stuff in
it
there.
seems like such a chore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other than that, I play Red Dead Redemption. Just like the story elements of all of that is just, I think that's like the main sort of game that you can look to, 1 and 2 in
Yeah.
particular, that can start to really like try and, I mean, like The Last of Us could do some of that as well. I have an Xbox, so I don't play Last of Us. But yeah, so I just feel like those two, tent poles are like, those are like the main things that are starting to really show that like games can start to actually become cinematic.
Yeah.
The photo mode of Red Dead Redemption, that has the same sort of camera like technicalities that like my phone has when I shoot and edit stuff.
Yes.
Or just any sort of big Hollywood camera sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so I take a lot of photos through that when I'm playing like the story mode.
I gotta recommend you a game. Have you seen anything on Ghost of Tsushima?
I've heard about that. Yeah, is that a PlayStation exclusive?
I don't know. I think it might be. I really hope it's not. But
I've heard nothing but good things about it.
it's like it is a cinematic experience as well, and there's an equally like the camera mode. Sometimes I'll be like, oh, I need to take a picture, and then it'll be like 20 minutes later while I'm still messing with like the different settings, and I'm like, okay, I need to like do this mission now, so I just need to take the picture, and it ends up just being like super shitty because I have like 30 filters on it, and I've adjusted like everything. You can play the game and like. There's like a black and white mode, so it's like an old like samurai film,
like Kurosawa.
Yeah, like original, like you could do either subtitles or dubbed. I'm playing through it just regular, like just like dubbed.
Hold up, is the whole game in Japanese?
It is if you choose that option.
Oh, okay.
But
I feel like I'd want to like play the whole thing through Japanese with English subtitles.
Yeah, I can't read that well, so I'm just doing it in English dub with the regular, not like black and white. I'll do that eventually, but
I just feel like hearing that language and hearing their accents would definitely help me like put in the mood.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's like a commonly agreed upon thing that like Japanese voice acting is like way better than like English voice acting.
The same with like anime stuff.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, personally, I don't discriminate based on whether you want to watch subtitle or dub.
Right,
and I will choose dub a lot just because it's so much easier because I don't have to read, and I'm such a slow reader. I think I have like a second grade reading level. Okay, that's a bit of an over exaggeration, but still, that's what it feels like sometimes. But
that's cool.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
It's that.
Thank you for listening. If you're a first-generation student or faculty member at the University of Portland who is interested in speaking on this podcast, particularly with a friend, classmate, or mentor of yours who is also first-gen, don't hesitate to reach out to John and Norman to schedule a time and place to record. Their emails are hartj22@up.edu and hilker22@up.edu. Support for this podcast comes from the Public Research Fellowship Program and the First Generation Program of the University of Portland's Shepherd's Academic Resource Center. The FGEN experience is written and directed by Melanie Mwabai, editing and sound by Jonathan Hart and Norman Hilker. Funding provided by the Public Research Fellowship Program.